Imagine this: two armies facing off, the fate of nations hanging in the balance. In the valley of Elah, the Israelites are completely frozen with fear. Why? Because every single morning, for 40 long days, a mountain of a man steps forward from the Philistine ranks. His name is Goliath. He's a giant, decked out in bronze armor, carrying a spear the size of a weaver's beam. And his challenge echoes across the valley: "Send out a man to fight me. If he wins, we become your slaves. If I win, you become ours." But no one in the Israelite army dares to move. Their courage has evaporated. They are utterly terrified. This isn't just a challenge between two men, it's a taunt against their entire nation and their faith. The stalemate continues, day after agonizing day, with the Israelites' morale sinking lower and lower. It seems like all hope is lost. But far from the front lines, a different story is unfolding. A young shepherd named David is tending his father's flock. He's the youngest of 8 brothers, not a soldier, not a warrior. He's a musician, a poet, someone who spends his days in the fields. His life is simple, but it has forged in him a quiet strength and a deep, unwavering faith. He's faced down lions and bears to protect his sheep, relying not just on his own skill, but on a power much greater than himself. While the trained soldiers of Israel tremble in their boots, this young shepherd is about to be called to a destiny he could never have imagined. A destiny that will put him on a direct collision course with the giant who has brought an entire army to its knees. David's father, Jesse, sends him on a simple errand: take some food to your 3 older brothers who are serving in the army and see how they are doing. So David loads up the supplies and makes his way to the camp. He arrives just as the armies are drawing up their battle lines and the war cries are filling the air. It's a scene of chaos and tension. And then, right on schedule, Goliath steps out. David sees him for the first time, this towering figure mocking and cursing the armies of the living God. He listens to the giant's arrogant words, and he sees the reaction of the Israelite soldiers. They flee from Goliath, completely petrified. But David's reaction is different. He's not afraid. He's indignant. He's outraged. He turns to the soldiers around him and asks, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" He can't understand why everyone is so scared. To David, this isn't just a military problem, it's a spiritual one. Goliath isn't just insulting Israel, he's insulting God himself. David's older brother, Eliab, overhears him and gets angry. He accuses David of being arrogant and just coming to watch the battle. But David isn't deterred. His questions and his bold spirit get noticed, and soon, word of this brave young man reaches King Saul. King Saul, the leader of Israel, is desperate. He summons David. When this young shepherd boy stands before him, Saul is skeptical. "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him," he says. "You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David has an answer ready. He tells Saul about his life as a shepherd, how he has protected his flock from both lions and bears. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." He's not boasting about his own strength. He's declaring his faith in God's power to save. His confidence is so genuine, so unshakable, that it moves the king. Saul finally relents. "Go," he says, "and the Lord be with you." Saul then tries to equip David for battle in the traditional way. He puts his own royal tunic on David, places a bronze helmet on his head, and gives him his own coat of armor. David straps on the king's sword and tries to walk, but he can't. He's never used these things before. They are heavy, cumbersome, and unfamiliar. They aren't asterisk his star, so he takes them all off. "I cannot go in these," he tells Saul, "because I am not used to them." Instead, David chooses the tools he knows, the weapons he has mastered. He takes his shepherd's staff in his hand, and then he walks down to the stream. There, he carefully selects 5 smooth stones and places them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag. With his sling in his hand, he walks out across the valley to face the giant. The moment of confrontation arrives. As David approaches, Goliath looks down at him with utter contempt. He sees a boy, rosy-cheeked and handsome, not a warrior. He is insulted that the Israelites would send a child to fight him. "Am I a dog," Goliath bellows, "that you come at me with sticks?" He curses David by his gods and roars, "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." The giant is all bluster and pride, confident in his own massive strength, his heavy armor, and his deadly weapons. He sees the fight as already won. The entire Philistine army is laughing, and the Israelite army is holding its breath, watching in stunned silence. This is it. The climax of 40 days of fear and tension. A boy with a sling versus a giant in full battle armor. But David is not intimidated. He doesn't flinch. He stands his ground and calls back with a voice that rings with absolute certainty. You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. He is reframing the entire battle. This isn't about David versus Goliath. It's about Goliath versus God. David continues, his voice rising. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. And the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. This isn't the talk of a scared boy. It's a declaration of faith. He is turning the giant's own taunts back on him, promising a swift and decisive victory, not for his own glory, but for the glory of God. As Goliath moves closer to attack, David doesn't wait. He runs quickly toward the battle line to meet him. He reaches into his bag, pulls out one of his 5 smooth stones, and places it in his sling. He begins to whirl the sling around his head, faster and faster, building up incredible momentum. This is a skill he has practiced thousands of times in the fields. It's second nature to him. He takes aim. At the perfect moment, he releases the stone. It flies through the air, a small, simple projectile against a wall of bronze and iron. The stone finds its mark with pinpoint accuracy. It strikes the giant squarely on the forehead, the one small area unprotected by his helmet. The stone sinks deep into his forehead. For a moment, everything seems to stop. The giant staggers. His eyes glaze over. The sneer on his face is replaced by a look of shock. And then, like a great tree falling in the forest, Goliath crashes to the ground. He falls face down on the earth. The impossible has happened. The unbeatable champion has been defeated. David, without a sword of his own, runs over to the fallen giant. He pulls Goliath's own massive sword from its sheath. It's heavy, but he lifts it high. With a final, decisive action, he brings the blade down and kills the giant, completing the victory he had declared just moments before. He then cuts off Goliath's head and holds it up for all to see. The silence is broken by a collective gasp, followed by absolute pandemonium. The Philistine army, who had been so confident, so arrogant, are now completely undone. They see their champion, their symbol of power, lying dead, defeated by a shepherd boy. Their courage shatters. A wave of pure terror washes over them, and they turn and flee. On the other side of the valley, the Israelite soldiers, who had been paralyzed by fear for 40 days, are suddenly filled with a new and powerful courage. Seeing the enemy run, they let out a mighty roar and charge after them. They chased the Philistines all the way back to their own cities, securing a complete and overwhelming victory. A single act of faith from a young shepherd turned the tide of a war and saved a nation. It is a story that shows us that the size of your opponent doesn't matter as much as the size of your faith, and that sometimes the greatest victories are won with the most unexpected weapons. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos just like this. See you next time.